The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is May 22nd, 2018. This week, Sharenting and the Smart City Trojan Horse. My name's Basil.
And this is Gonz. This is the podcast where we bring you tomorrow's stories in relation to ancient biblical prophecies. Basil, do you know why I changed that?
No, I don't.
I Googled alternative Christian and I didn't like what I found.
Nope. Yep. You can't do that. You can't
go
Googling things. That's like when a long time ago, I think once in one show, we referenced ourselves as alternative. Forget what it was. Alternative Christian or alternative right or alternative. I don't know what it was exactly. But we called ourselves that once, and then that got ruined. So we're never gonna. So now that
we're just not gonna identify as anything. We're just us.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
There you go. We're just that show. I almost called us a news show, Gons. That would have been silly. Speaking of that. Just a quick update. I'm going to jump right in here. Yep. We got a few updates here before we get into the stories. We've been talking about CRISPR-Cas9 for quite a while and the improvements that's made on the scientific process, messing with the genome, creating chimeras and hybrids, and really just beginning the end of the world. Well, we've got a new sheriff in town. It's called MAGESTIC.
Ooh.
Yep. And the quick rundown is if CRISPR could be considered kind of a copy-paste situation, MAGESTIC is like having the whole word processor.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear what MAGESTIC stands for?
Yes.
Multiplexed accurate genome editing with short trackable integrated cellular barcodes. MAGESTIC. That was good timing on the soundboard.
Yeah, it was
good. So yeah, no, we're not going to talk a whole lot about it here, but as we move forward, it looks as if this MAGESTIC system has the potential to kind of take over the whole genome editing scene. So you'll be hearing more about that in the future.
It's always so convenient that the word, the acronym aligns with the thing they're using.
I think if all this, if this incredibly lucrative podcasting future doesn't work out, I think I could have a good future in
coming up with the names
scientific acronyms.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah. We can definitely dive into some of those occult books and come up with names.
Yeah, exactly. We know enough about the occult and the weird esoteric stuff they're into that we could really, really rock their boat with some cool acronyms for their science stuff.
We have a little Four Horsemen update. Our Four Horsemen, our fake Four Horsemen.
Oh yeah, no, listeners of the show know the Four Horsemen, which is obviously Zuckerberg, Elon, Bezos, and Gates.
Yes, and they all own dogs because dogs are people too.
And that's why they're so evil.
So Elon's dog is named Marvin.
That's the robot from Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yes.
The clinically depressed robot.
Yeah. Bill Gates has two dogs, one named Oreo and the other one named Nilla.
They're both cookies. Okay. All right.
Yep. Jeff.
Okay, Gates.
Jeff Bezos owns Kamala. Plus, he has that robot dog. Do you remember that?
Yeah. So he has an actual live human dog.
Yes, and the best of all, Mark Zuckerberg, his dog. What do you think the name of his dog is?
Privacy infringement.
No, it is Beast.
Of course it is. Of course. And I don't think he does that ironically either. I think he knows.
I think he listens to this show and he's trolling us.
Yeah, he's serving his Luciferian overlord by getting a dog and naming it Beast. Well,
Speaking of the beast system,
that's exactly right. Why don't we get into the you're getting real good on that soundboard. It's been a little bit slow recently, but I see you were just biding your time.
I think just the ripping in and out of the closet and just things getting reconfigured helps.
You've had a lot of trauma.
Yeah, needed a little redo.
A
of the
little
closet.
reset. Yeah, okay. You're feeling fresh. You're in a new environment. That's good. Why don't you bring us this first story here?
Yeah, this is cbronline.com. Sharenting. Cost of data losses to reach 676, is that francs, I think, million by 2030.
No, that's
Euro?
Pounds.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know the symbols.
I know, Gons.
Well, that's why you're here. You're here to fill the gaps.
International explorer.
Yes.
Monetary explorer.
Yeah, I haven't really traded international fiat, so.
I tried to spend dollars in France once. Don't ever try it. It's
Really?
not a good, yeah.
Did they just spit on you or something? Did they hate you?
No, they yelled at me. Yeah, it made me feel... I'm not joking. I got yelled at for trying to spend dollars, but they yelled at me in French, so I had no idea what was going on. So I just made like this stupid I'm an American. I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna leave now, and I just walked away. They started yell. Okay, so it was okay. We can't make a story. We can't do a story time here, but it was it was at a street fair, and I tried to pay in dollars. And this woman just started yelling at me, and not just yelling at me, but yelling to the other vendors and pointing at me. And I knew, I was like, I got to get out of here. I do not like this. So I just left. I was at big.
Yeah, that was the right move. I would have to say in that moment, that was the right call. Because who knows? Maybe,
it was
they're waiting for the guy with the dollars because he's the guy that scammed whatever, and they're just waiting. Yeah, they're looking for. Who knows?
Who knows? It was bad though. I did feel like I was in trouble.
Yeah,
in big trouble.
Things are going to be different over there because Barclays report a staggering amount of child identity aftermath by 2030. New research conducted by Barclays reveals that children are being put at identity theft risk by parents oversharing on social media in a trend dubbed sharenting, to the point at which it could annually cost the future generation £676 million by 2030.
That's both a lot, but also when you consider 2030, I mean, that's 12 years. It also seems like not that big a deal.
Yeah. Well, the 2030 thing is always...
Well, they are sending a signal with the 2030 thing.
Yeah.
All right, continuing.
The research revealed that 82% of parents share personal information online, and 30% of parents include personal information, such as kids' names, in their passwords, with the impact likely to result in up to 7.4 million instances of online identity fraud by 2030.
Okay, real quick.
Yeah.
The research reveals that 82% of parents share personal information online. That just means anything. I mean, I had a scone today. That's personal information. Mm-hmm. And 82% of parents, that actually seems relatively low if you factor in my scone example. Number two, I actually ran the numbers. They said 676 million pounds by 2030. Mm-hmm. And this is coming from a number of 7.4 million instances of online identity fraud.
Right.
Well, you divide the 676 million pounds. Man, I'm so American. Pounds by 7.4 million instances of online identity fraud. That's $91 million per identity fraud.
I was going to say that maybe this future generation, these next 12 years, they're going to have a bunch of rich kids with the crypto explosion, the move, Basil.
all these babies are into Bitcoin and all their All their Bitcoin gets stolen by 2030.
Yeah, that's what it
okay.
is.
Maybe that actually makes the most sense.
Yeah. Barclays head of digital safety, Jody Gilbert, reiterated the importance of parents being more cautious regarding children's online presence, saying, quote, careless online behavior and insufficient privacy settings can reveal key details about yourself, your friends, and your family. It is vital to think before you post and regularly audit social media accounts to prevent information from falling into the hands of fraudsters. The impact of sharenting, Barclays notes, may not be felt for many years. Once children start earning, fraudsters will find it easier to discover a name, date of birth, and address to steal their identity. Now, I found this interesting. So they're kind of anticipating these kids earning money, like, in the next few years or whatever.
By going to work at the factory at 5 years old? Go be a seamstress?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just weird.
I mean, okay, let's assume they mean when they turn 18 and start making money.
Right.
Or whenever you start making money.
Yeah.
29 in my case.
Okay. Parents, it emphasizes, are frequently putting their children's names, date of birth, house number, mother's maiden name, place of birth, first pet name, and more online, along with name of their school and their favorite sports team. Barclays points out the fact that it is not just the children at risk. Parents sharing personal information in their passwords can also be at risk. So it's pretty obvious stuff here.
Yeah, well, this actually, this did make me think a little bit, okay? Mm-hmm. This made me think a little bit, the way they're talking about, parents, mother's maiden name, date of birth, house number, name of their school, favorite sports team, first pet, stuff like that. I'm like, well, that's stupid. I mean, that's what everybody puts on Facebook.
Right.
But, when you think of it in the context of, identity theft, if I log into my bank account on a different computer, it literally asks me what my first pet's name was, because that was one of the security questions.
Right.
So I guess I never really thought about that, although they're kind of assuming that identity thievers will have to catalog all this information in order to steal from the child, like 20 years later.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because there's a generational thing happening here where, we're kind of the first generation where we're sharing all this stuff online. And then when we have kids, this is the first generation that all that stuff is like recorded online, like, hey, we have this kid and blah, 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 with dogs or whatever it is. And so, it's a whole different dynamic in that regard.
What just occurred to me also is it's kind of sad. There's kind of a sadness to this because the head of security over there at Barclay is so worried about, like, in 20 years from now, somebody is going to know your child's first pet name and be able to answer the security question to get into their bank account. When in all reality, it's just going to all be biometrics. It's just going to be your child, has the
DNA.
chip in their hand or some sort of DNA or something that allows them into their bank account. And this woman who's in charge of head of security making a big deal about this is just stuck in the past, man. Okay.
Is that the solution being provided for sharenting?
I'm just saying, look, Jody Gilbert, hit me up, girl. I will teach you of the future and what you actually need to be worried about.
Right.
It's not the name of my first dog.
It is true. And I just, personal comment, having kids, I don't plaster stuff about the baby or anything, online. I just don't feel comfortable doing it. So, to each his own, but,
I mean, you shouldn't do that anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, there's stuff that you should share, stuff that you obviously shouldn't share.
Yeah.
I think the biggest issue, the biggest problem she's thinking of is, the sort of benign information that we don't think about.
Yeah.
Such as favorite sports team or first pet or name of your elementary school or something, because those are legitimate security questions. But how about this, Jody? How about you just make better security questions? The stuff that isn't that people don't post on Facebook.
Yeah, update the security question list of then just expand the catalog there so it's not always the same 5 questions.
I love that. Instead of like updating her system 20 years from now, she just is going to parent shame all the parents out there.
Well, they're just falling behind because the future is
blockchain.
I'm just gonna annoy people with that.
I'm so glad. I've gotten that blockchain thing stuck in my head. I'm not even gonna call it a jingle. Blah 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 blockchain. Everybody out there, if you want to find other Canary Cry News Talk listeners, just shout into a crowd of people. Blah 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 blockchain.
Okay.
Yeah. No. But yeah. Anyways, I'm sorry, Jody. I've been very hard on you, but seriously. But yeah, obviously as a parent, you should sort of limit the stuff you give out, information about your child. But I think that things are evolving as we sort of move into this kind of scary Orwellian future that, security risks and the amount of talk about privacy problems. I mean, if you're on Facebook at all, your child's privacy is gone.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah.
Did you have any specific worries as a parent, especially one with a little baby samurai princess?
I mean, I will say, I'm sure every parent can relate to the feeling of like the deepest fears of things that can happen to your kid. Those things that didn't exist before you had a kid, and then all of a sudden you have a kid, and it's like, oh wow, that's real. So you can go down that dark path if you want to.
No. I would rather not. What I would rather do is tell you about this article on wired.co.uk. Barcelona is leading the fight back against smart city surveillance. In 2015, Ada Colau, an activist with no experience in government, became mayor of Barcelona. She called for a democratic revolution, and for the last 2 years, City Hall, working with civic-minded coders and cryptographers, has been designing the technological tools to make it happen. Their efforts have centered on 2 things. The first is opening up governance through participatory processes and greater transparency. And the second is redefining the smart city to ensure it serves its citizens rather than the other way around. The group started by creating a digital participatory platform, Decidim, We Decide in Catalan. Now, the public can participate directly in government as they would on social media by suggesting ideas, debating them, and voting with their thumbs. Decidim taps into the potential of social networks, the information spreading on Twitter, or the relationships on Facebook. All of these apply to politics. And Decidim seeks to channel them while guaranteeing personal privacy and public transparency in a way these platforms don't. Quote, "We are experimenting with a hybrid of online and offline participatory democracy," says Francesca Bria, Barcelona's Chief Technology and Digital Innovation Officer. Quote, "We use Decidim to create the government agenda. Over 70% of the proposals come directly from citizens. Over 40,000 citizens propose these policies, and many more citizens are engaged in offline collective assemblies and consultations. These proposals highlight what Barcelona's citizens care about, and thus what this government believes should be its focus. Affordable housing, energy transition, air quality, and public space top the list. Now they have their orders. City Hall is building the tools to address them." There's a lot more in this article. We're not going to make it all the way through, but the basic principle is that Barcelona as a city is transitioning into this interesting smart city / governed by the people / kind of still creepily NWO situation.
Yeah. So the first thing to point out is the headline for this article is Barcelona is leading the fight back against smart city surveillance. So you think like, oh, some kind of grassroots thing happening to fight the New World Order, But then you read it and it's like, okay, so you have just someone that's, no experience in government just come in and just create this revolution, which is always odd.
Kind of has a little bit of a Trump vibe to it.
A little Trump vibe. And also, if you look back at history, a lot of times, I use Japan as an example. The way they were basically able to colonize was to weaponize the locals, the local youth and give them, guns basically to rebel against the old system, the old shogun system or whatever. So, and that was a fabricated sort of, encouraged by the outsider type of move to equip them and to create this organic, quote unquote, organic thing. So it seems similar in that regard, where it's like, there's some kind of backing, whether it's financial or whispers or whatever it is.
Yeah. Do you have that quote about the Vodafone thing? Oh, here we go. I have it. So here's a quote. Now we have a big contract with Vodafone. And for those of you who don't know, Vodafone is one of the largest cell phone companies overseas, I think specifically in Europe, but other places too. And every month, Vodafone has to give machine-readable data to City Hall. Before, that didn't happen. They just took all the data and used it for their own benefit.
Right.
So now we have a situation where we got this corporation who's gathering all the data, which nobody likes. Nobody's a fan of that. But instead of Vodafone keeping it all, now they're being forced to give it to the government. And the government they're kind of like portraying this like, we've defeated smart city surveillance. Right. Vodafone has to give us all the records now. Don't worry, people. The government has your back.
It doesn't make any sense. This victory over this totalitarian thing is, I guess if it's in the right hands in government, it's better than in the wrong hands, I suppose. Yeah. But
now I don't want to be completely like contrarian about this. Like, if the government, who is now under the leadership of an activist since 2015, I mean, if it's going well, good. If life is improving, that's very good. I'm very happy about that. Hopefully this activist does not fall prey to the lures of power of running the government, which, I mean, that's kind of the issue. The issue is not the government itself being evil. It's that the power you receive while being in a position of government is what corrupts you. And I'm sure if we did a little bit more digging, we could find some public opinion pieces of Barcelona residents who don't agree with what's going on.
Yeah. It's interesting because it is they have 28,000 participants, 190,000 votes that they've accomplished through the whole Decidim platform. And they also talk about another platform called Decode, which is the platform that allows them to basically give people, the individual, control of whether they want to keep their personal information private or share it for quote unquote public good. So what does that mean? It's like, for advertisement.
Yeah. Now here's, as the article goes on, it talks about something called Centillo. And it says, I'm just going to read it straight from the article. It's a technical challenge and one they're still working on. The tools are being put to the test in 2 pilots in Barcelona. The first focuses on the... By the way, I'll address it. I'm saying Barcelona with the Spanish lisp.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be cool. I just think it's kind of funny. Being an American. City Hall is giving residents sensors to place in their neighborhoods. Here, citizen, put this sensor in your neighborhood, wherever you like. These sensors are directly integrated into the city's sensor network, Centillo, and gather data on air quality and noise pollution to influence city-level decisions. This pilot addresses the technical challenge of collating and storing a stream of citizen-sourced data while giving those citizens complete control over what the information is shared. The idea is that citizens could go out their way to collect useful data to improve public services, a very modern form of volunteering. So I like this idea and I like where it's going. It's very much centered on, involving citizens in the government, which is something that doesn't happen enough in America.
Yeah.
Unless, you're one of those crazies who do that.
Yeah,
but this does leave a lot of room for, for shady business. I mean, that's kind of the balancing wire of democracy, really. You want to involve the people, but at the same time, the general person, the general citizen is not hard to kind of, manipulate. And then you're kind of off the hook because, hey, the citizen did it. The citizen agreed to it, but maybe they didn't know exactly what they were doing.
You want to know what's really behind this? Okay, so later on in the article, it says here, Barcelona also leads a network of rebel cities. Fearless Cities that is adopting its tools and practices. They hosted
Viva Barcelona!
They hosted the first conference last year, bringing together more than 180 cities from 40 countries and 5 continents. Now, let me read for you what Fearless Cities is all about. It's a global municipalist movement, and it says here in their little blurb, in a world in which fear and inequalities are being twisted into hate, fearless towns and cities are standing up to defend human rights, democracy, and the common good. This global municipalist movement met for the first time at the Fearless Summit in Barcelona in June 2017 at the invitation of Barcelona en Comú, with the goal of radicalizing democracy, feminizing politics, and standing up to the far right.
Okay.
There you go.
Barcelona. It's Barcelona, by the way.
Yep. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So that's pretty radical.
Yep.
Pretty radical over there.
Super lefty.
Yeah. Well, let's keep an eye on that. That's very interesting.
Yeah. Let's keep an eye on this Fearless Cities.
Especially after all the they had some interesting run-ins with France's version of the alt-right. But we're running out of time, Gons. And I know you've got an awesome Nephilim update that I'm just actually super excited to hear. Unfortunately, I mean, can you do it quick? Or you got like 20
Update.
I'll do it real quick. So dailymail.co.uk. How 3,000-pound dinosaurs sat on their eggs without crushing them. 100-million-year-old nest reveal they created clever donut-shaped holes in the ground to support their weight. The finding of the new study, which looked into the incubation practices of a feathered species of ancient carnivores called Oviraptorosaurus, or chickens from hell. They created toilets, Basil, for their eggs.
Dinosaur hell chicken toilets.
That's right. That is my Nephilim update.
Oh my goodness. Okay, very good Nephilim update. All right, everybody. Well, hey, go on out there. Thanks for listening to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Now, here's the thing. Nobody's just going to learn about this show just by walking around watching the mainstream media. You're going to have to go out there. You're going to have to tell them about it. You're going to have to rattle some cages, everybody.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! Don't ever silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
And for those of you who are not satisfied yet and you want a little bit more Canary Cry News Talk, you can head over to patreon.com/CCNT, where you're going to get extended reports and much, much more. Thanks for listening to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Make sure to tune in next week. But until you do, think outside the cage.